Hello, and welcome to this month's Safety Minute. When an incident occurs at work, we are trained as safety professionals that it is a failure of the safety management system. And the reason we're trained that is because we can only control, from a company perspective, the policies, the procedures, and the processes. It's really hard to control the behaviors of all your employees. And those policies, procedures, and processes are designed so that they help mitigate the behaviors that people bring into the workplace. And yet, when incidents occur, and they occur, what the company does is they look at, well, what happened from the safety management system that we can modify or add to help control the behavior or whatever else went wrong with the process that created an incident. And that's where then they modify or they create a new policy. And then the worker, they get all upset. They feel like they're inundated with safety. And then they tend to kind of push back on the safety systems because they feel like they're too much. And I don't ever want to go on a witch hunt and try and blame workers for what happened. I think that when an incident happens, they're already dealing with enough. But I can tell you, I have heard thousands and thousands of stories on how people get injured. And when I hear those stories, there's always statements that the worker puts in there that tells me that they had a hand in it. There'll be a statement like, I didn't think, I didn't see it happening. Nobody told me. The company should have been doing this. These people shouldn't have been doing that. This shouldn't have been like that. When I woke up the morning of my incident, I told my wife I was worried about that job. I also saw the energy. And I did what every other injured worker has ever done when they should have done something, when things weren't right. I bared down and I pushed through. And I didn't do anything about controlling that energy. And what's really interesting is when I hear other stories on injured workers, never once do they ever admit that they had any fault in their incident. Yet they say it right there that they saw the energy, they saw things going wrong, they saw it could have been better before things happened. And yet they bore down and they pushed through. And an incident happened and they got hurt. We as workers, see, we can take those policies, those procedures, those processes, and we can find ways to mitigate them. We can find ways to bend the policies. We can find ways to make shortcuts. We can find ways to get around them. Or we can use them the way they're designed. And when we find ways to get around them, what we do is we actually minimize their effectiveness. But when we use those policies the way they're designed, we maximize their effectiveness. And those safety policies, no matter how burdensome they may seem to be, those safety policies are ultimately designed so that you can do your job in a way where you don't get hurt. And if you have a safety policy to follow, it probably means you also have an employer paying you to work safe, which means they're okay if you take a couple more minutes to do the job properly and safely. And I have found that when you do the job safely, it also means you usually do the job properly. And a safe job always gets done. What's interesting, an unsafe job, well, it always gets done as well, just by somebody else, after the fact, after you've been injured, after the company had to stop operations so they could clean up the mess and do an investigation and get you to the hospital, after they had to spend so much more money on taking care of everything that went wrong, after that job got thrown way off schedule. It still got done, just by somebody else. And when you really look at it, if the job's always going to get done, and it's only going to come down to the fact of either I get hurt or I don't get hurt, why don't we choose the way of I don't get hurt? And that means, well, then let's use those policies. Let's remove that human error. And then when I do meet you and you didn't have an incident, it's because you told me of a story where you did see the energy and you did control it. And by doing that, you did get your job done properly and safely. I hope you enjoyed this Safety Minute. If you want more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button. If you want to bring me out to your place, go to spencerspeaks.ca. And until the next Safety Minute, stay safe.